This is Petria, a fictional country in which the game Road 96 and its spin-off, Road 96 Mile Zero, are set in. The area above this line is what we get to explore in the first game, and we get to explore this area below the line in Mile Zero. It's probably a good idea to mention at this point that this video will contain spoilers for both games. It took me a while to decide which section I should start with, but eventually I settled with the political aspect of the games, as it ties to nearly everything else in Road 96. Petria is ruled by its president, Tyrak. It is not known for how long he has ruled exactly, but it seems like he came to power sometime before the 1986 elections. Tyrak is an authoritarian leader. However, his regime tries to maintain an image of a democracy. He has delegated some of his responsibilities to his ministers. We only see the Minister of Oil, but this line seems to suggest that there are other ministers too.
Madam Zoe! If it isn't my favourite minister's daughter!
It seems like Minister Muller is Tyrak's right-hand man. He even lives right next to Tyrak's palace. Many of the orders given by Tyrak are given by him to Muller directly. And while Muller is sometimes a little hesitant, ultimately he complies.
I'm asking, Muller, do it! Detonate the explosives, now! Forgive me, Sarah.
The elections are only held every 10 years on September 9th. It seems like Tyrak may have caused this prolonged interval between the elections after the 1986 elections. And it also seems like he is planning on becoming a lifelong ruler after the elections in 1996.
Thousands in this nation, including me, think the law should be changed. If the people of Petria want Tyrak to be our president indefinitely, who are lawmakers to stand in our way?
You're absolutely right, Minister. If that's what the people want, then they should have this. Petria, after all, is a democracy.
Oh, and if it isn't obvious by now, the elections are rigged. Tyrak's opponent during the 1996 elections is Senator Flores. It seems like Petria also has its own Senate. The extent of the power the Senate holds is a bit unclear. In the end, Tyrak has the final say when it comes to decision making. Not much is known about Senator Flores' policies. She seems to be more liberal than Tyrak. We do know that if she wins, she will abolish some oppressive practices implemented by Tyrak, such as sending people to labor camps for wanting to cross the border. She seems to be advocating against fossil fuels, as shown by this clip.
Flores believes we should abandon fossil fuels and take away your jobs. What do you, the hard-working people of Petria, think of Lupe Flores?
It is unknown what the legal age for voting in Petria is. Characters do ask our player characters if we are going to vote or not, even if we are playing as characters that are under the age of 18. It could be that they are just overestimating the ages of our characters. Or it could also suggest that the legal voting age in Petria is less than 18. We learn from Stan and Mitch that citizens with a criminal record can't vote.
Unfortunately, due to our priors, this is an impossibility.
Yeah, if you got a criminal record, you can't vote, kid.
But what about you?
The citizens of Petria are divided when it comes to their opinions on Tyrak's rule. Despite his oppressive regime, many of the citizens still genuinely support him.
Is in bad shape. You know, that's why we need Tyrak for another 10 years, and not that Flores. to make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen elsewhere.
Still, even with many loyal supporters around, Tyrak has evoked a strong resistance against him too, namely the Black Brigades. The Black Brigades were formed sometime prior to the 1986 elections, as they were present on election day trying to assassinate Tyrak. Their assassination attempt caused Tyrak to trigger the explosives meant for avalanche control on top of Mount National. The explosives caused the peak of the mountain to collapse on top of the brigade members, as well as hundreds of innocent bystanders. The brigades were framed for causing the explosion.
Tyrak did it. Mount National was rigged with explosives to prevent avalanches, like every other year. When the brigades tried to take Tyrak out, he triggered the explosion. He believed there were brigades in the crowd, and there were. He wanted to kill them, even if it meant killing other people too.
While the brigades did not really set off the explosives themselves, I would say that they are, at least partially, to blame for what happened. Did they just expect Tyrak to do nothing during the assassination attempt? Still, it doesn't excuse Tyrak's actions either. The Black Brigades are led by two of its forming members, Robert Winters and his friend John. With the passage of time, the two have grown more distant.
Whoever's listening, I sure hope your friend knows how to fly.
Robert Winters, a former biology teacher, is the more radical one of the two. He is eager to use violence as well as manipulate and extort children to fight for the brigades.
I do believe there's a role, a very big role, waiting for you in the brigade.
But I want to see how committed you are first.
Do you know what this is, Kaito? Very keen, Kaito. Very observant. It's more than just a firearm. It's a way of life. A brigade way of life. Do you understand what I'm offering you?
Oh, and don't forget about your IDs right over there.
He asked the kid to build a bomb. A cop was hurt because of it. And now he wants a bigger one for election day. That's what he does. Uses kids. Did the same thing with a girl named Lola in '86.
John has grown more moderate over time. He was one of the members present at the border on election day in 1986, trying to assassinate Tyrak. It's likely that the death of his partner, Connie, during that event is what turned him more moderate. It is uncertain how many members the brigades have, but they do have many sympathizers. They are also shown to exchange favors with civilians. However large their manpower, their presence has certainly caused the establishment to be on the alert, as random inspections are performed in case of brigade activity. Most cops in Petria are corrupt. They enjoy tormenting their fellow citizens and using violence against protesters, regardless of how they enjoy their duties involved with supporting the state. They are still usually willing to turn a blind eye for donations that are generous enough.
Are you all right, son? You seem a little nervous. Say, you look like one of the kids on the missing posters. The son of a police officer, are you?
Wait, what?
And what about your little friend here? She the daughter of anyone? I see. I'll need to see some papers, little lady.
What if we were to make a donation to road control, sir?
A donation? Well, for a donation, I suppose I could look the other way.
Thank you, officer.
With conditions like these, it is no wonder that many citizens seek to leave the country. Attempting to escape Petria is not without its risks, as crossers will be shot on sight. Those caught alive will be sent to a labor camp called the Iron Pits, where they will be tortured. Even if you make it, it is still possible that your family will be punished for your actions.
Yes? Come home immediately, or your parents will be arrested.
We learn that the wall at the border finished construction 10 years ago. The wall was already present during the 1986 elections, so the construction must have finished earlier that year. It is probably around the time when crossing was made illegal too. The Black Brigades have a camp near the wall. They help crossers, but not out of the goodness of their hearts, as they require payments for the risks that they take. Most people attempting to cross are shown to be young people, but sometimes even older people make an attempt for it. It's probably more common for young people to take the risk, as they generally have less to lose. Adults already have their own families and jobs to take care of. It would be irresponsible to leave your own children behind, or to take them with you, risking their lives in the process. It is undisclosed if foreigners can apply for Petrian citizenship or not, but it sounds like foreigners can migrate to Petria, as some Tyrak supporters complain about their presence in the country. So, how large is Petria? I'm only working with rough estimates here, so this is not an accurate measurement. In the first game, the furthest we can spawn from the border is around 2,100 miles, perhaps even a little further away. We have to take into consideration that the roads are in straight lines while estimating the distances. This is my rough estimation of the length and width of this country. I have seen larger estimates, but this is my conservative estimate. For illustrative purposes, let's estimate the size of the southern section of the map. The land area here loosely resembles an inverted triangle. So let's calculate the area by first multiplying the width with the height, and then dividing the result of that calculation by 2. As you may see, this would put the total area of this small section of the map roughly around 3 million square miles. Russia is the largest country in our world, and 3 million square miles is about 45% of the entire size of Russia. For Petria, 3 million square miles is a much smaller portion of the entire land area. This would make Petria the largest country on Earth if it existed in our world. But where would Petria be located if it existed in our universe? Well, Petria seems to be on a separate continent of its own. I would argue that at least most of the countries of our own world exist in this fictional universe too. Why? Because of linguistics. The language spoken in Petria is English. Still, during our journeys, we come across other languages too. John uses the alias Mr. Ursus, Ursus being the Latin word for a bear. We also hear the Italian song Bella Ciao in the game. I do believe that Alex says something similar to the phrase, "Pardon my French." Of course, the word French in that sentence doesn't really refer to the French language, but slang. Even so, the word still suggests that the French language exists within the same universe as Petria. We can also use the Spanish phrase Viva la Revolución while playing as Kaito in Mile Zero.
Viva la revolution, young bud.
Italian, French, and Spanish are some of the major Romance languages. Romance languages being the languages that derive from Latin. They all have the same origin. All things considered, it seems like at least the countries speaking Romance languages exist within the same universe as Petria, and that their history is pretty similar to what has occurred in our universe. So what's the Petrian landscape like? The southern areas are more flat and arid, while the northern areas are a bit more lush and mountainous. It is likely that the country experiences orographic rain, caused by the large mountains on the northern border. Briefly summarized, mountains cause moist air to ascend. This causes the air to cool and condense. This process eventually causes rain to fall. Most of the rain occurs on one side of the mountain, while the other side has to manage with less. It seems like Petria is on the side that receives less rain. There are two cities mentioned by name, White Sands and Colton City. Though, if we look around, it seems like there are some other unnamed cities around too. White Sands is the current capital of Petria. It is where President Tyrak, Minister Miller, and some other members of the elite in Petria reside. Living beside them are the workers whose purpose is to serve them. Everything in White Sands is strictly supervised with cameras everywhere. If that weren't enough, a resident of White Sands has to listen to constant announcements, such as this one.
It's time for your daily presidential fact. Did you know that in addition to mental acrobatics, President Tarek's favorite activity is breeding champion dogs? It's true! Tarek's dogs are all champions. Have a nice day.
White Sands is a closed city. A residence card is required to stay there, and residents can't leave the city without a special permission. Visitations from outside are also controlled.
They all want to get into White Sands. Can't blame them, can we? A lot of the time, they have family or friends here that they'd like to see. Not everyone is lucky enough to live in White Sands, like you and me.
Ah, Madame Zoe, that is rich. Why would you ever want to do that?
Well, if you wish. Heaven is right here in White Sands, isn't it? Uh-huh. Tell the minister that Carson's his regards, okay?
The city gets occasionally hit by sandstorms too. The lower class people suffer the most from sandstorms because the water gets channeled away from their residence when the sandstorms are about to hit. The city itself is sort of rectangle shaped, and its size is quite small. It consists of three main areas. Oasis Villas, where the elite live, Presidential Park, and Tyrak Square, where the workers live. Colton City is a city that we never get to see up close, but we hear that it is very polluted and that Tyrak is largely hated there. Colton City shares its name with Tyrak's son, Colton. It is uncertain if the city was named after Colton Tyrak or not. Petria uses its own currency, the Petrian dollar. Petria also has its own national bank.
We robbed the big one! First Petria National!
There are ATMs all around the land for withdrawing money. We don't see debit cards being used as a payment method, which makes sense, as the time between mid-90s and the early 2000s was the time when debit cards were just starting to become widely available as a payment method. What forms the Petrian economy? We can analyze this by taking a look at the different sectors of economy. Let's start with the primary sector. There are oil pumps to be found nearly everywhere in Petria. The oil industry is the largest industry in Petria. The country exports fossil fuels and other resources to other countries.
Look at those trucks lined up to cross. They're selling our resources to the rest of the world. But 99% of our people will never see any of that money. It all goes to Tyrak and his cronies, including my father.
Other industries that belong to the primary sector and which can be found in Petria are logging, agriculture, and mining. We see these trees being harvested. It also seems like the soil will be used for agriculture later. Mining in a desert environment makes sense, as deserts are often rich in minerals. It is not known to what extent Petria utilizes its access to sea for fishing. For secondary sector, we have construction and manufacturing. Petria has its own battery manufacturing company called Petria Energy. Another example of manufacturing in Petria is its car manufacturing by Petria Motors. It is unknown if these companies are state-owned or not. On a side note, I noticed how Petrian license plates are formatted so that there are 4 numbers followed by 2 letters. I tried to search for real-life counterparts, but as far as I could see, there were no countries with this format for license plates. The tertiary sector consists of the hospitality industry, transportation, pharmacies, retail, and sports. The hospitality industry seems to be large in Petria, as most of the locations we come across during our travels are diners, bars, motels, and such. This does make sense for a country with so many roads. Fun fact, in this specific motel, you can actually find Robert's number, and you can give him a call too.
Who is this? Yes. Hang up, kid, before you regret it.
It is worth mentioning that many of these businesses that we run into on our journeys have no problem with using child labor. Business owners often hire teenagers to work for them. Since Petria is a country with many roads and a lot of resources to export, a major source of employment is trucking. It is notable how the Big Bear rest stop can afford to be selective with its customer base. There must be enough truckers around to sustain the place. Being a trucker is not an easy job, however, since we can learn that there are road pirates eager to rob trucks transporting goods.
Road pilots, young blood. Get in the back. You know how to handle a nail gun? These Ozark sticks are gonna get my pineapples. Ha! Can't legally carry a gun, so you'll have to shoot them with nails.
We also learned from John that carrying guns is illegal, so methods for self-defense are limited. The cops are an exception to this law. Even without any road pirates around, some of these roads don't look very safe. Petria also has its own taxi services and bus routes. During my travels, I never came across any train tracks though, We learn from John that the country has its own national football team too. The Quaternary and Quinary sectors include jobs involved with the media, finances, the police force, and the government. We have already gone through most of these things, but I will talk about the media soon. So, since Petria has so much oil, are the fuel prices there any cheaper? Petria has three types of fuel: V-power, diesel, and unleaded. These are the prices for each. I will be comparing these to the fuel prices in the United States of America in the same year. It has to be taken into consideration that the Petrian pricing is for each liter, so we will have to convert the American pricing from dollars per gallon to dollars per liter. 1 US gallon equals 3.78 liters. I am using the US Energy Information Administration as the source for American fuel prices. I am taking the average price from the months June, July, and August of 1996. Then I'm going to calculate the average price for the whole summer of 1996. According to the site, diesel and all gas prices were as following. This means that the average diesel price for every gallon was around $1.19 during that summer. Converting that to liters makes it just about $0.32 for every liter of diesel, about $1 cheaper than in Petria at the same time. As for gasoline, the average price during the summer of 1996 was $1.27 for a gallon. Converting that to liters makes it about $0.34 for every liter. Now, since the data used here was for gasoline in general, not specifying between unleaded and premium prices, I think that we should count the average price between V-power and unleaded gasoline in Petria. That price would be about $1.67. In conclusion, gasoline in Petria is about $1.33 more expensive for every liter. I really would have expected a country so rich in oil resources to fare better in this comparison. It is possible for Petrian citizens to work offshore with an offshore working contract. The contract lasts 5 years, after which the citizen is required to return. This possibility is only available for married people with at least one child. Most likely As they because wouldn't they are see more their tied to the families country. again if they didn't return.
Welcome. You're here for the offshore worker test. If you fail, it's because you have lied and you will be detained. It's too late to leave. Try and you will also be detained. The test will be difficult. Only the most honest citizens will pass. Your number will be displayed behind me. When it appears, it's your turn. Your test results will also be displayed there. So pay attention. There are certain requirements you need to know. Only married persons with at least one child can rightfully apply. Your contract, if you pass, will last for 5 years. No more, no less. Lastly, the majority of your pay will be sent back to your homeland. Your number will soon be displayed. Bless our beautiful nation. What are you doing? Your number's on the screen. Get in there. Number 13, you have passed. Stand up and leave. And may you well represent our blessed nation.
The many truckers we see at the border are supposed to return back right after making their deliveries. Gambling is a part of Petria's economy, in addition to everything I already have mentioned. At least in the form of scratch tickets. There's a variety of them available for you to purchase. Now we have finally moved to talk about the media in Petria. The most prominent source of news is the GNN, an acronym very similar to the CNN in our world. But what does GNN stand for? My first idea would have been Government News Network, but since GNN being possibly tied to the government is a point of dispute, it's probably not made to be so obvious. I saw someone suggest that it could be named Galaxy News Network, as the GNN logo has a star on it. Still, we are not sure of what it stands for exactly. This is only a suggestion. The most important program on GNN is the Sonia Show, run by reporter Sonia Sanchez, after whom the show is named too. It is said to be aired live,
We say it's
but
live,
it really
but
isn't.
that'd be way too hard.
The show utilizes manipulation to make Tyrak and his regime seem more benignant. This is done by the use of censorship and blatant twisting of facts
Happened
when
with me and
reporting on
Darren,
events.
who witnessed the event.
I'm on? Yeah, so I was sleeping in my tent when I heard a bang, like a big explosion, you know. When I got out, I saw a huge fire at the wall.
Do you know what caused the explosion?
I think a truck smashed into it.
That's right, Sonia. A brigade truck crashed into the wall, killing a teenager on the spot.
Nah, you got it wrong. The truck didn't kill the teen. Border forces did. They're shooting kids all the time. Hey, don't grab my mic.
Uh-oh. Looks like we're having some technical difficulties. Wish I could say I'm surprised the brigades are behind this, but I can't. Thank you for your report, Beatrice. Have no...
There are at least 2 newspapers available, Petria News and Petrian Times. There are also several magazines around for entertainment. The news aren't only broadcast on TV, but also on the radio. There are more radio broadcasts too. The radio stations are separated into government and folk stations. This particular shed in White Sands is probably used for a broadcast about conspiracy theories that you can hear in Mile Zero while using the walkie-talkie. It's a fun little secret. The brigades also make sure to utilize the radio. They run their own illegal broadcast. They can communicate secret messages to other members by using coded language. But they also use it for spreading their own message to regular citizens and recruiting new members.
Impressive, isn't it? The brigades used to live here. In fact, this is where they planned the attack in '86. Tyrak found it after the attack. Those still here were arrested, and many were never heard from again. Go on, take a look around. That's what they called the radio tree. They used it to make their radio broadcasts. You're looking at what allowed them to recruit their members. That's what I wanted to show you. I think we should break it.
Other forms of media include movies, such as The Killer Pineapples, video games, and music. About music though, it's interesting that the country uses cassette tapes and not CDs. CDs replaced cassette tapes as the more popular format in the early 90s. Petria seems to be a bit behind when it comes to technological development. There are many vending machines and diners to be found in Petria. It seems like a huge portion of the food that Petrians eat is fast food. Though it could be the case that we're seeing more fast food because the characters we play as are young. The fact that there are so many burgers around seems to indicate that there are people raising livestock in Petria. Before I started making this video, I thought that the pineapples we see in John's truck would be imports from other countries. However, apparently pineapples can be grown in deserts. The citizens of Petria enjoy their cups of coffee. Coffee beans can be grown in deserts, so they are probably also grown locally. Speaking of which, coffee beans are an ingredient of another drink, Omen Vitality. Omen Vitality is made out of coffee beans, ginseng, and cucumbers. I did some small research, and all of these can be grown in deserts, though ginseng requires a dense shadow for growth. This makes ginseng the most likely candidate to be an import. If it were to be cultivated in Petria, I'd say that it would most likely be grown on the northern areas of the country. On a side note, I'd like to mention that Omen Vitality is probably a reference to OMEN, or Omen, a company that partnered with the developers of Road 96. There's a variety of alcoholic drinks available at bars. Many of these drinks have nationalistic names. There's this specific cocktail called the Black Brigade, named after, well, you know whom. It is not the only drink with a brigade theme.
You're not. It's just that John's still living in the past. Chuck, serve this boy a martyr.
Here we go. You sure about that, Robert?
Our friend here is practically an adult, aren't you?
Some of the Petrians hold a belief on G energy, a belief related to Taoism, a mix between religion and philosophy. John mentions how his acupuncturist has said that he has large G reserves.
Says I got large chi reserves below my spine. Well, I'll just tap into those and... good to go.
On top of that, there's a group of Tai Chi practitioners located in White Sands. We also see that this brigade member wears a shirt with the yin and yang symbol, a symbol strongly tied to Taoism. It is also worth mentioning that both Jesus Christ and Satan are mentioned at least once. While we do not know how widely practiced these religions are, it seems like the citizens of Petria at least have the knowledge of Christianity and Taoism. As for traditions, I only came across one, Tyrak Appreciation Time, during which citizens are supposed to go to their nearest Tyrak statue and pay their respects. It is unclear if this is practiced outside of White Sands or not. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Did I miss anything crucial? Or did I perhaps get something wrong? Please leave a comment about it, if so. I would also appreciate it if you gave this video a like. Thank you for watching and have a great day.